reflect the pop.
Sorry, I forgot.
That's
to start
okay.
recording.
As I mentioned,
Go on.
Hyundais and Kias are the most frequently stolen vehicles citywide. It's probably even nationwide. But I can only speak for the statistics in the city of Chicago. And one of the reasons is that they are easy to start without the key or fob. They use the USB cord. They break the steering column so that they can gain access to the port in which they can start any car. You can even find it on YouTube on how to start a car without the key to the fob. And unfortunately, they also use these vehicles for further robberies and crimes with the use of a stolen vehicle. I also just would like to point out that the 9th district will be hosting a vehicle safety day this upcoming Saturday. To get a little more information, you can speak to my officer Solace after today's meeting, so that we can give you further information about registering. The only catch is that your vehicle has to be a Hyundai or a Kia. And proof of registration that shows you in the city of Chicago, most likely the 9th district boundaries. Is there anything?
Yeah, do you know what, Officer Salas, 9th District Caps, thank you very much for having us. Besides the vehicle safety day, which we're actually gonna be having, I'll give a little information on it now. So we are doing an etching event through the Chicago Police Department. This is where there's a sticker that is put onto the catalytic converter. And then there's an acid that's painted over the numbers on the sticker. And then when you turn the vehicle on, the heat etches a number into the catalytic converter, which is you register with your phone and you put all your information. And with that number, if your catalytic converter is recovered, they'll be able to find whose catalytic converter it is. And it will help detectives piece together cases if they come across the catalytic converters. Now, the problem being with this is, we wish that we could get one of these catalytic converter etching on every vehicle in the district, but we have a limited. So first off, we have to find an auto shop that will, volunteer their time to us. And with the converter heating up, there's a time frame. There's like a 20-minute cool down. So like in the first event, we're only able to do 10 catalytic converters. We are going to be posting in future dates on our Twitter. So if you guys follow us on @ChicagoCaps009, you can check for future dates to keep it fair with everybody in the district. When we put it up, after we get the amount registered, we have to shut the link down, and then we'll contact the community members and give them a time and a location. So, yes, sir.
Although proactive stuff, and I understand these departments have to be sort of all this different. What are we going to do about improving the safety? This is a worldwide issue. When I look at, if I look at B914, Chinatown area, that kind of issue as well. One of the highest, crime rates in the city. B914, that can be word here. I mean, I look at your theology, solutions that it's mostly under funded. Okay, when I look at my tax bill, we're on 28%. 85% of that tax bill goes to the tip. To 30% of the cost that we just got granted over to the 95th Street extension for the red line. And we've got some of it going to remote, but very little of it goes to public safety, to the police department. Very little of it goes to schools. So that is fundamentally broken. And so there's no way to fund that. How are we going to fund that? We're getting more close on the ground.
Yeah, sir, I totally understand your concerns, and that's something that I'm definitely not, at liberty to address. I can say, a couple of points that you had brought up as far as like the crime and the Chinatown area and stats like that. I can tell on our end and working with the aldermen, commander, detectives. They have an extra car that they put up to be proactive in that area because we had realized that there was an uptick in vehicular hijackings and robberies. And on top of that extra car, there was even a supplemental car that was, the commander got okayed that if guys wanted to come in on their days off and man 914, that was done from, and I could speak on the police department side, that was something that done. And then on the community side, there's a community member that we work with, part of a church. I know that they connected to some of our district coordination officers. These are guys that are not necessarily tied to the radio and answering priority one call after priority one call. They did safety walks throughout the neighborhood, basically where they're going door to door, letting people know how to register for Smart 911, trying to convince community members to attend the local beat meetings. I can't tell you I don't want to hijack the whole meeting, but I can't tell you how important it is. We are understaffed. Absolutely. So yeah, I appreciate it, but I mean, it is a time to where I've seen, we need all the help that we can get to try and figure out some of these complicated crime issues. So.
I mean, if you listen to me on last night, those questions that came out here from Bridgeport was about school. But the other key issues are all about public safety. They're about affordability of the city of Chicago, the basic residents, and all of that happens to be, tied to continue to go up. We pay more, we get prep in schools, and we don't get public safety. So I really don't know. I think that, more right to citywide. If we're here to talk about the ward, those are issues that are perfect for what.
That is, you're absolutely right. It's a citywide issue. I know too, the Alderwoman and Ms. Disney was at the 9/11 beat meeting that we do in McKinley Park. And it was I go through and no matter where you're in, because the district goes all the way to Garfield Boulevard. And historically through the past couple of years, there'd be four vehicle thefts, and we've been seeing throughout, not just in the 11th ward, all over it. So you're absolutely right. There's an increase, and we're trying to work together to do what we can to bring some of these numbers down.
So let me answer. Thank you for your question. It's good to see you. Thanks for being here. As far as resources for the police goes, I voted for the budget, which was an increased budget for the police. I want to provide them with as many resources as possible. The reality right now is that we can't hire and retain people fast enough to replenish the people that are retiring or just leaving to go on to other things. This whole thing is like a giant forest fire. It's not, when we've got to fight it on multiple fronts. I recognize that. And I understand the frustration with the taxes. I want to just parse this out though, because this conversation tonight specifically about safety, I know funding is important for that. And I'll tell you what we're doing from the perspective of city council with my fellow alders on the council. A couple of the things that we did recently was we're looking at ways that we can create incentives to have people stay on longer. We're also looking at potentially ways to make it easier for people to come back to the force, because right now the rules are such that the policies are such that if you leave the Chicago Police Department, let's say for Cicero or something, and then you want to come back, you've got to start all over, go through the training. I think that there's an argument to be made that if you leave within a certain time period, like someone who's been injured, let's say call it 18 months. If you leave and come back within 18 months, maybe there's a fast track for you rather than going through all of the paces again. Because right now, my biggest issue in terms of wanting to support the police is making sure we have enough staff so that they can get rest. They can replenish their own batteries. They have an opportunity to rest and that they can take care of their own mental health. I know what I'm like after a full week of like working 12, 14-hour days, and I don't do anything traumatic. I don't witness crimes. I don't have to deal with that. And we need to be able to support the police in that way. I think that also includes, I don't know why the owl, oh, that was your.
That was me, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought it was the
I'm
owl
so
looking
sorry.
at me, it was a bird. I think the other thing that we need to do is ourselves as community members, do what we can to improve public safety too, because the police alone cannot do it, right? Did you have something that's?
Oh, you know, we were well organized.
Yeah. I know you are.
And you have a late phone number to it, you know, that there's a referendum that basically shows the current administration is now friendly for the police department. I mean, I talked to all my friends on the police department, they say this is one of the most toxic administrations for the police department, and Lori is a friend of mine, okay? And it's the same thing I told her directly, you know, what happened during the pandemic, in basically turning their back and putting the police department in front of the bus on that was horrible, and that's what you want, that's what we got retiring early. You know, so I think this is where the older people need to kind of stand up and say, what's best for the citizens of the city of Chicago? And that is supporting the police, because if you don't have safe streets, you don't have to see business moves. I mean, that came up in the mail forum last night about businesses moving out because employees don't feel safe going to the West Loop where there's no carjacking in the middle of the news center that we have. You know, here in the city of Chicago, we used to be that there were two those that created all the problems in the city just because they were underserved and they were now it's the entire city. There is no safe haven. So now we know what the people in those two zip codes. So, and I think everybody that's got a taste of it doesn't make it. And I think that's what I'm not every all the person, it's all the current city council and the mayor.
Does anybody else have questions?
So.
All right, so I'm gonna pick up on a
Hi.
couple of things. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Anna?
Hi, yeah, I'd like to comment from the Zoom. I mean, I'd like to see CPD defunded, disarmed, and disbanded. We've tried this policing experiment for decades, and it's not improving safety. It's not improving people's feelings of safety, and it's not improving the problems in our community, like poverty, mental health problems, homelessness, or other issues. We spend nearly $2 billion a year of our tax dollars on CPD. Their clearance rate is abysmal. They're not doing what we are supposedly paying for them to do. So I know other abolitionists in the neighborhood, and we would like to see less money spent on CPD, fewer CPD officers in the neighborhood, and more money spent on root causes of crime, root causes of violence, in order to have a safer ward.
Anna, thank you for your comment. I think we've got a lot of different diverse opinions about public safety and the police. I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you. And I'm going around talking to a lot of people all across this ward, and people don't feel safe. People are looking, that I talk to at least, are looking for more boots on the ground, more police, and that they be supported because crimes are being committed. Lou just mentioned that this is a very well-known fact. Beat 914 is one of the highest robbery beats in the entire district and maybe in the entire city. In the entire city, thank you. And I live there, right? So I live in the heart of Chinatown. And I worry about my own kids and my parents going out. People don't want to go out at night. And it's an economic engine. It produces millions of dollars of tax revenue for the city. And all of this is interconnected, right? Lou, you were just saying this. And I, trust me when I tell you, I feel all of this. Yeah, over the summer, there was a robbery at the CVS. There was another alderman there. Leslie Hairston was getting a booster shot and the store was robbed at knife point. And she came in and she called me and I went over, we had Carson over. But the store's been robbed so much that the manager stopped calling the police. Because also the police are so understaffed that it took 3 hours for them to come and file a report. So my biggest fear right now is that the shrinkage begins to be so much with these companies that they decide that it's not worth it to be in our communities anymore. So I think that there's got to be some balance to all of this.
Whenever someone has a question from the computer, there's this data making a lot of
Repeat the question? Sure. I'll turn the volume up. The last one wasn't actually a question, it was a comment. I think that might be as loud as the owl will go. I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the crime incidents that have happened recently, and I've gotten calls at the ward office. So in the interest of transparency, the shooting that happened on January 1st started as a fight at Kevin's Hamburger Heaven. I've received, now it's the first instance since I've been in office. Of something happening at Kevin's that resulted in something like this, like the first anything that I know, but I know that there's been a history of some issues at Kevin's. They are 24/7 operation. And I received a letter from a group of residents from Low Avenue and in and around that area. Requesting that something be done to curb their hours. So at the request of the community, I've reached out to the Business Affairs and Consumer Protection group within the city to request a nuisance meeting so that we can sit down with the owners to talk through a possible updated plan of operation in the hopes that, you know, their hours might be able to be changed. It seems that when the crimes are occurring, they're in the early morning hours or very late at night. So that's one of the things that we've set into motion. We've also done a nuisance meeting. We've got 3 nuisance cases right now in the ward. So there's number 18 karaoke bar in Chinatown, the full ward wide thing. So I only see one person from Chinatown here at the moment. But last year, a young lady sadly was shot. She was an innocent bystander. There was an argument that started inside the club and it came outside. And people were shooting at each other. Both parties had guns. The young lady was shot in the armpit and she died pretty quickly afterwards. Based on the safety concern, the police shut them down. The police are the only ones that have that power on an emergency basis to shut down a business. I have received some requests around Kevin's too, or inquiries about why Kevin's wasn't closed. And again, I as an alderman don't have the power to shut down business. Only the police have the ability based on their assessment of safety risk to shut down business. And that's not what happened with Kevin, so we're pursuing a slightly different route. Number 18 karaoke bar though, we've been doing nuisance meetings now for several months. They have not yet reopened. They had a lot of building violations too. So the reason they're not reopened right now is because they're building the inside of the club is not up to code. So, but they think that they're going to be opening soon, and there has been a very big plan of action, a plan of operation that includes security measures, the promise of them not to promote parties through using party promoters, security inside, tagging or scanning IDs when people come in so they know exactly who's coming in and out. And it's the hope that, you know, they can reopen and, you know, they can be a good operator and a part of the community because people live all around there. Chinatown is a very densely populated area. You know, you see down Wentworth, mostly restaurants and gift shops and things. People live above all of those. People live on the side streets. So it's a very big concern. And the people that frequent these places don't treat the neighborhood very well. These are all things that we're very concerned about as a community. I've been part of those conversations from the beginning. And the other thing that we have to realize is that businesses also have the right to due process. You wouldn't want to be the owner of a business going through something and not have the opportunity to have due process so that your business isn't just summarily shut down, or that you have the opportunity to remedy these things. So the other one, the other nuisance meeting that we've requested is for a junkyard on 42nd and Halsted. We've had ongoing complaints about the junkyard encroaching on neighboring properties, not disposing of things properly, parking trucks illegally, and trucks coming in and out. So we are pursuing those 3 cases with the Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Department. Yes.
I live across the street from Wake Park. Recently, I noticed that there's smoke out on the corner of the first. And also, I hadn't seen that smoke out before. Without nuisance, I think it's very good to be proactive and before something happens. I was just wondering, how did that shot come about? Did we have an opportunity to say whether we agreed with that type of business? And that's the second one I'm all set within, you know, less than half a mile. Personally, for somebody that's a parent, I don't want businesses like that in our neighborhood. Could you tell me about how that came about? And you know, you mentioned this whole community input. Can you tell me a little bit about that business and how that's now you know, functioning?
Did everybody on the Zoom hear the question?
My name is Boyd Bennett. I live on 29 to South Top.
could you guys hear the question? Should I repeat it? I just want to make sure. That was Troy Jimenez. He lives on Poplar across the street from McGuane Park. He's noticed that a smoke shop has opened up on the corner of 31st and Halsted, and he's asked me specifically how that came about. That about cover it. Right, so. Oh, yeah, so the nuisance cases that I just talked about were reactions to things that have happened already. This is a new business that's open. The property is zoned, and as of right, they were able to open up a smoke shop that didn't have to come through me. In fact, I saw it when it opened myself. So there was not an opportunity for community impact. Again, if you're a property owner and it's zoned for some sort of business and it falls under the category that it's eligible for, there's not even the need to come see the alderman. You can apply for a permit. I don't approve permit. There's certain things that do come across, like, Airbnbs, I get notified of. Permits just get applied for. Permits get applied for every single day. In the city of Chicago, we get weekly reports of these things.
So, I know it says some sort of weed things. I don't know what they sell. It seems to me from what they're advertising, it's sort of risky. And so there's no input from the rest of the community as to what to be sold there.
So whatever the things that they're selling, smoke shops, CBD is perfectly legal. Freddy's has CBD infusions for their Italian ice. We haven't had them, they're kind of nice. CBD is legal, and so is the cigarettes and things that they're selling in there. And so at this point is cannabis in the city of Chicago. That is not what's allowed in that space. That requires, as you know, Roy, because we were at a meeting together earlier in the week. A cannabis dispensary is a totally separate thing. What this is, it's a tobacco license that they have. Okay, so I want to get back to safety. I'm mindful of the time. We spent like 30 minutes on this, and we got a late start. So one of the things that I was hoping to have a dialogue with our friends from CPD about too is just things that we can do as a community to continue to support the work that you all are doing to be more active participants. I know, Lou, I met all of your neighbors in this room, right, back in April. And one of the sort of, I think, aha moments for a lot of the residents, we brought everybody together. There was a shooting that happened, I think the first day that I actually was appointed. Lou reached out, we brought the commander and others here to talk, and as is customary, you guys pull calls for service.
Yes.
And the commander addressed the group, and it was more people than this. It was about 30 people in the room. And we asked the question, how many calls for service do you think came in? There were shots fired. The woman who had provided her Ring camera video to WGN, her husband is walking the dog. Thank God he or the dog were not injured, because there are people shooting at each other at that level.
25 feet away.
Yep. And the number of calls for service. Any guesses? You can't play. There were 2 calls for service. Yeah. I know, but you're an employee, so, or you're part of the team. The key here is that we can't leave it to the Lou's of the street to be the only ones calling, right? Calls for service drive resources in the community when it comes to police attention. And what that does, and I was with a group of seniors today at the Irma Apartments, and we were doing a public safety thing. Officer Toe was with us. The building manager said, we've had a number of catalytic converters stolen over here. Officer Toe's first question was, well, did you report it to the police? And she said, no, the individuals, we tried to tell them to go report it, and they refused to go report it. Now the police don't even know that 6 catalytic converters were stolen in this parking lot over the course of 3 months. We have to be able to provide support to the police in terms of information. Making calls for service absolutely does that, and it does help us, especially these guys, to detect patterns. Right? If all of the nosy neighbors on a block see the same, blue Kia driving around or black car driving around, where areas have been reported for burglaries or something, then they can at least pay special attention and do some more driving around the city, right? Look, there have also been armed robberies. I wanna just like acknowledge, I don't want anybody to think that any of this is lost on me. I get a report every day of the crimes that are happening, but whatever was reported from the night before, I get a phone call when somebody is shot. None of this is lost on me. And it's very real for people, because I talk, like, again, I talk to people every day. There were a string of robberies a couple weekends ago. And a couple from the same, which I think is suspected. I don't know if you have any more information about that. So there was Pork and Carry. There were two people that were found armed rob in front of the bar, and then somebody else at 34th and Low, 13 minutes apart. And then there were probably 10 more robberies that can be
There
attributed.
were about
to-
13 robberies that occurred within that same weekend, like from Friday to Sunday. I'd say about 6 occurred in the 9th district, the rest just over our border, probably in the 7th district, Englewood. Again, we suspect the same crew responsible because they were literally within minutes after each other. Same descriptions, motor vehicle, 2 cars usually, but the victims only notice one, is usually a trailer. There's about 3 to 4 individuals in the car. 2 come out, approach the victims. They're both generally armed, right away point the gun at the face. That causes the victim to look down, look away, which is a natural reaction. And that's why they do it. They're also masked up, usually all in dark clothing, so that there's not a good description. And they know it's almost impossible. Just short of being caught in the act, even if we could do a lineup, victims, first of all, they looked away once they saw the gun. And second, they're not gonna remember anything. They're gonna say it's a young man in dark clothing and a mask. So it's very successful for them. They don't just hit our area, this is citywide. We're aware of certain crews, because they're usually young. I'd probably say, I think it was as young as 13, and maybe mid-20s, but these offenders are usually juveniles. And if they do get caught, unfortunately, the laws don't allow for us to give any serious punishment, so.
That same group was working Wilson and then Little Village.
It could be, but there's more than one cruise.
And Minneapolis said.
Ammo, very similar, and they all use the same one. And they also use stolen Kias and Hyundais.
Right, and a lot of these stolen vehicles are used in the commission of other crimes, and then the cars turn up hours later. It is a problem citywide, and it's gonna take a lot of different approaches to try to quell that. I mean, like, I don't even wanna try to, we could spend an hour and a half trying to unpack all of that. Just know that, I recognize that we have to take a very comprehensive approach to this. And it's not all just one solution. There is an expansion of the Chicago Department of Public Health, crisis, mental health crisis response teams. So that was a pilot that was happening last year, met with a lot of success, and it's being expanded. I'm waiting to find out if actually our area is included in that. I don't know if you guys have any information. It said near south, it didn't actually name the neighborhoods, so that I'm trying to find that out. Yeah.
We don't have any.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we can, if the appropriate professionals can respond to people who are in a mental health crisis, rather than sending the police to do that, I think that's gonna make an incredible difference in what we see happening on the street today. That's not going to address necessarily the fact that we have young people wielding guns who think that they can just take whatever they want. You know, and certainly we don't want, sorry, I have to turn, this is my personal computer. I need to turn off notifications. We don't want for people to feel like they should arm up and then do whatever they want. I actually had a constituent come and talk to me. He was robbed at gunpoint. His car was stolen. He was an Uber Eats delivery person. And he said, what, should I just go and get a gun and just take whatever I want to? These are all very real feelings that people have. And it's not, there are no easy answers to any of this. I mean, what could I say to this man who was held up, who is traumatized by the armed robbery, and understands, and has, and believes that there's not gonna be any real consequences for anybody that commits a crime like this. So there's a lot that we've got to do. I want to be able to continue working with my colleagues on this. And that is, we've got to attack it from multiple fronts. So we want to continue to be able to provide support to the police, make sure that we're providing young kids in school the resources that they need to have better options after school, programs where they can be safe and social together, and that they can go move about the city and interact with each other, you know, and in productive ways. And we need to help. We need to help. If there aren't any more questions around public safety, I'd like to just switch gears. I'm mindful of the time. It's 7:11 right now. Troy? Last, okay.
A lot of complaints, a lot of that are going on. You are part of staff that is understaffed and still doing it. So I'd like to give you a call.
Thanks for that, Troy. So I'm gonna ask Carlos to join me up here for a little. Actually,
Yeah.
you want, yeah. All right.
We'll switch up. All right.
So one of the biggest, the biggest pot of resources that an alderman's office has control over is called the infrastructure. Every ward is given $1.5 million, regardless of the land mass of your ward, the same amount of money to address infrastructure. Infrastructure means potholes, it means sidewalks, it means streets and curbs, lights, alleys. What else does it include? Did I miss anything? Those are the big ones. Those are the big ones that most of you are calling. It's not the bridges, just right. No, not the bridges. No, the bridges are separate. So cleaning a viaduct or painting a viaduct might come out of the menu budget. Also bike lanes, another thing, arterial, what?
Arterial streets are separate.
Oh, arterial streets are separate. I'm just repeating what Carlos. Carlos is our local infrastructure expert. So we just wanted to provide a recap of what actually was invested into the ward last year, just some highlights. So, and this is not just menu money that we're talking about right now. We also get, what are they called? General,
Capital funds. and
Capital
general
funds
obligation
and
funds.
general obligation funds that
Or
come from
bonds, sorry.
their bonds, go bonds.
Yeah.
Where the city has grant money to spend on capital projects that don't come out of the menu. As you can imagine, if we had to do everything out of the menu, very little would get done, and you know, everybody would have bad streets. Not that many of you don't. I will acknowledge that too. But last year, $1.5 million total was spent strictly on repaving streets and alleys. We also hear a lot about traffic calming concerns. Our office is on Halsted. I haven't done it yet, but I bought myself a speed radar gun. When it gets warmer, I want to sit outside because I want to clock people, because it is frightening how fast people are driving. I don't know if this is like people emerging out of COVID, but I don't think people drove this crazy before COVID. Yet here we are. And we know that we've got a lot of challenging streets. I can tell you that we have been in many conversations talking to residents about how we can slow people down. We're not opposed to putting speed bumps on. I'm not afraid to lay a speed bump down. I wish we would have gotten the stat on how many speed bumps we've installed since I got into office. But speed bumps are something that we ask the community. So if you live on a street and you want a speed bump, we ask somebody on the block to take a petition, because this affects the entire block, and not everybody is a fan of a speed bump. If at least 75% of the block can agree, then we'll add it to the list. It's a pretty inexpensive way to calm traffic, but it doesn't work on every street. Right, so over here at Bridgeport Village, they have concerns about speed, about drag racers. The street is a little too wide on Racine for us to put a speed bump, so we have to look at other traffic calming measures. So one of the other things that we might be considering is bump outs. bump outs make the roadway more narrow, so people can't speed around each other. You naturally have to slow down. There are other things that we can do, like putting a pedestrian crosswalk in the middle of the street with a sign that comes up in the middle of the intersection that says pedestrian crossing. Even something as simple as something in the middle of the road that catches your eye, you will start to slow down. Not everybody does, but we're trying every which way. One of the things that we also just recently put in, that was just installed, did not come out of our budget because speed cameras do not come out of the menu budget. We requested 2 speed cameras for the ward. And I know speed cameras are very controversial. I'm not interested in finding everybody to make the city money. I'm interested in finding people money so that they don't drive back down streets near schools and parks. The one camera that we had before the second one was installed is on Halsted, right over by McWayne Park. I slow down all the time, and everybody does. And I don't know how much money that camera is making right now because they never see the lights flashing. They think it's trained people to go slower. About a year ago in January, a parent of a student at McClellan Elementary School was hit by a motor vehicle, after she dropped her daughter off kindergarten on the corner of 36 on Wallace. And since then, there have been numerous accidents. People speed down Wallace. They don't really stop at that stop sign because they're gunning for the light. They want to make the light at 35th Street. And there was so much community outcry over what had happened there. And the fact that we couldn't put a speed bump because it's a bus route. So we couldn't do the cheap solution of a bus route. One of the other solutions that that CDOT had recommended after a traffic study was done, and that's generally how this works. We do a traffic study so that we get recommendations from CDOT as to how to best calm traffic in an area. One of their recommendations was bump outs, which we generally like bump outs. The challenging part here, though, is that it involved relocating a drain or a sewer, which really jacked up the price of doing this. So
traffic plan for the school.
And a traffic plan for the school, that's right. So they also recommended a different kind of traffic plan for the school. So one of the things that we did at the beginning of the school year before we knew that we were gonna be able to get this speed camera was work with the school to make that a one-way street going north on both lanes. So we closed off one side, one lane of traffic. And the new principal instituted sort of like a kiss and go sort of scenario where parents weren't just sitting there parking their cars, leaving, and then, walking the kids in. You pull up, someone opens the door, they escort your child out, then you pull away as a parent. So, the traffic flow has been better. And after school hours, there have been at night several accidents recently. The car was actually flipped over. The car was driving so fast, it hit another one and flipped that car over. This was right before the speed camera was installed. It was quite a coup for us to get this speed camera because speed cameras have been so controversial in the last couple of years. Not very many new ones had been installed or approved. And when we requested it from McClellan, they wanted to put it on 35th Street. I don't know exactly was my reaction, that makes no sense. That's not where the people are speeding. I need it on Wallace. They said, well, we don't put them on side streets. Is that
On non-arterial.
on non-arterial streets? I'm sorry, they're very technical terms that's why I have Carlos. But we lobbied hard for that camera to be placed on Wallace. I said, Wallace is where it's going to make the biggest difference. So that's where it's been placed.
First word to have it on non-arterial.
Oh yeah, we're the first word to have it on a non-arterial street. And we're pretty proud of that. Because we want it to be safer around the school. There are very many special needs students at that school as well. So we want to be as protective as we can, and we want people to take seriously that we want traffic to be calmed over there. So just FYI for everybody, if you haven't already seen it in the newsletter, the way that the installation and activation of these cameras is, the camera's being calibrated right now. So you may see it blinking, but it's not issuing any tickets. During school hours, from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. is it? It's in my newsletter, and I'll put out another post for the exact hours. But certain times of the day, if you go 6 miles over 20 miles an hour, you will be cited for a ticket once it's fully activated. And then if you're going from in the evening hours, I think from 7 p.m. to sometime in the very early morning, and you're exceeding 30 miles and 36 miles an hour, then you will also get a citation for that as well. The camera, once it's been calibrated, there'll be a 30-day period where they still cannot issue any tickets. They will issue you a warning. So if you're driving through and you see a flashing light during this period, you'll get a written warning in the mail that just tells you that, you know, you drove through a speed camera zone, school zone. This is your one warning. When you go through it again after it's been activated, then you'll get a $35 ticket. Any questions on the speed cam? Yes,
I'm already, there, in my opinion, correctly if I'm wrong, the speed camera was taken down. Do you know about this?
I know about it because I've gotten many tickets from that camera. And it's not actually near, it's on the outskirts. I don't agree with where that was placed to begin with, and that's actually in the 12th ward, so.
Right,
Yeah.
It's like the concentrated a lot of, the only reason I asked that question is because, if there's a process of getting the camera in, right, like the community, there must have been a process to take it out. Do you know how that decision came about?
I do not, I'm not familiar. I think Alderman Cardenas was lobbying very hard to have that removed.
I don't think you ever really
Yeah.
last week, a lot of.
Yeah.
Nicole,
Yeah.
we've had the same issue here, and this is obviously a park,
Mhm.
you know, we had people that to circumvent to Fifth Street, they cut through here and they sit through it during game days and the traffic. Heading outbound down, very good, they do that. We just everybody from, you know, public service vehicles, to everything that cuts through here. And there's clearly a, crosswalk, something that's there that people just ignore. I mean, I ruled the day that a small child runs out into the street, and gets killed here. I mean, I've been here for about 18 years, we remember the park here, the whole thing, but it's just been, it makes me cringe when I hear the speed go through.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm not opposed to any number of things that can calm traffic over here. So if you're talking about just right out here.
Right here, just right in front of the parking, and we tried the bump outs, bump outs, they totally screwed up, they did a half-baked job on the bump outs at the end of the block. I mean, we originally wanted to have it, be a single direction bump out, because then you stop the back and forth. I prefer it to be probably inbound as opposed to outbound, that's what everybody does, they cut through there, but you can kind of go see what they do for bump outs, and we spend a lot of money for.
Yeah, because bump outs are super cheap. So, I think one of the things that we can do, Lou, for over here is we can request another traffic study. I mean, I don't know when the bump out was done. There are other things like, a cul-de-sac, a traffic circle, other things that we can like literally physically put in an intersection and make it very undesirable.
We could people like Mr. Levine over here and Bridgeport Arts and block because he said, hey, we didn't have business, which is a bunch of bump, but this process started with Jim Baldwin. It went to Pat Thompson, finally Pat got the bump out done, but I mean, we've been dancing this dance for 19 years that I live here, And like I said, I'm waiting for, well, not waiting, I hope it never happens.
No, and we hope it doesn't either. So I'm happy for us to take a look at it. I'm new, so, I like to think I've got some fresh ideas, and I'm willing to ask the questions that maybe and push the envelope a little bit where people may not have been willing to previously, for whatever reasons, right? I'm not gonna Monday morning quarterback everybody behind me. I want the 11th ward to be a safe place. I don't want parents to have to worry about their kids that live across the street walking across to the park because cars are going so fast down the street. So I'm very committed to making sure that this neighborhood is safe, especially from vehicle driving recklessly down a residential street. So Carlos, we'll reach out to you just to get, maybe we'll sit down and we'll pull the file for whatever was done before so that we can see. And then maybe we can meet with you and your block club to better understand.
Generally speaking, if the traffic study was done more than 3 years ago, they'll want another one.
So how old is the bump out?
I cut down, pandemic, so probably.
Okay, so it's probably due for another study because obviously, other businesses have opened up, there might have been other development that has changed traffic patterns. So we can look at all of that.
We get whenever there's some events, big events, out in the Bridgeport Arts Center, people just, they get frustrated with the parking situation over the lot or that lot, and they just zoom down the street looking for other parking, Same thing happens when Joe Brothers has something over here, it just becomes a big mess here. So.
Got it. Thank you. So we just walked through kind of like what the process is, for menu requests. When you have something like a pothole or an alley that's flooding, those are very common things that we hear about, in the ward office. Those generate requests. And those traditionally, that's how this has worked in the 11th ward office, at least. A resident will come in with a request or complaint about something that needs to be fixed. We put that on the list for the menu, and what that getting on the list means that we're submitting it to CDOT so that they can assess the situation, they can provide an engineering estimate for what it would cost to fix it based on their recommendation. So as an example, if your alley is really bad and it's got potholes and it's been flooding, we'll send it to CDOT. CDOT may say, okay, this can be fixed with just simple repaving. And it's whatever the cost would be, $20,000 for repaving or something like that, 30,000, everything's gone up. But if they say that actually this needs to be a green alley, a concrete alley, that's digging the entire alley up, putting in some drainage, that's $280,000. Out of a $1.5 million budget. And I can't tell you how many green alleys they recommend. It is very, very infuriating. Because that leaves us in the position of having to explain to you constituents, like, I can only do, we can't even do, like, we do one of these a year, the city gives us one. I mean, they last year they did, I believe that they're going to do it again this year. But it makes prioritizing what gets done very difficult. Which brings us to the menu process for 2023. We started, so anybody that came to us towards the end of the third quarter and definitely in the fourth quarter last year was too late to get into 2022's budget. So the way that the menu works is we get requests in the second half of the year that then build up to the next year's request. And it's a laundry list. There are items that are on this menu from as far back as 2015. I'm just being honest with you. So that this is how it's a big jigsaw puzzle that we've got to work out at the end of the day. Now, what we're looking to do in creating some more community participation in this process is opening this up, is to, have more community participation with a focus on equity. Well, one of the things that I've heard a lot as I've gone out and talked to constituents in the last 10 months is a feeling that that whether real or perceived, there's a sense that certain parts of the work got treated better than others. And I heard that in many different places. And I think one of the things that I really want to be able to do is to take a look at that. Where have we been making improvements? Like which areas haven't been given any love in a really long time? I don't care about why they haven't. For my purposes, I would like for there to be more equity across the board. And Lou, right? I've talked to you about this. I've talked to people in different areas of the ward where there's newer developments and older parts. There's no shortage of need for things to be done. And when I go to talk to constituents, I always ask, okay, I know you probably have 7 different things that you really feel strongly need to be done. I need you to tell me what your top 1 or 2, because there's no way I'm going to get to 7 in the next year, maybe even 3. But what are your biggest issues? And this is what I want this process to look like, and want to bring people, want to sort of peel back the curtain a little bit so that people understand how prioritization has been done so far, and how we can, as a community, help to decide what are the most important things. Because maybe in this next year, we really want to look at traffic calming. Like, what are the worst streets for traffic right now, that where people are driving the fastest, where we don't have proper bike lanes, where we want to invest in, because this is another thing that we can spend money on, is creating greenway and protected bike lanes. So we're gonna start to have conversations. We'll do more community meetings. We'll have a process, probably like a Google form or something, so that people who don't want to come sit down at a table, but can at least weigh in with their opinions on what they feel like are the most important things. We will ask people where they live, because it matters to us, geographically, where we do these things. But we really want to get people's inputs on priorities, because that's going to be helpful to us too. At the end of the day, I certainly don't want anybody in this world to feel like, that they're somehow some second class citizen because they live in a certain part of the world.
Nicole, there's been some work done on looking at, I mean, one of the problems that we have in the ward is aging water infrastructure, you know, the pipes and everything. You know, they're having some problems where I think it was a plan to replace them by, you know, by area.
Mhm.
I know we had some stuff done over here, there's some stuff done on the other side over by Donovan. I mean, where does that sit?
Well,
Does that need transfer?
not with the infrastructure menu. So that's a Department of Water Management, citywide effort. I mean, you can see Halstead's closed off right now from Pershing North a couple of blocks. That work is going to be ongoing for, gosh, probably the better part of this coming year too, because it's got to go all the way north. What happened when they opened up there? I'm just telling you this side story because it's taking longer than it was supposed to. And what I've learned in the short time that I've been here is our streets are kind of like Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get when you open it up. And this is exactly what happened with the sewer mains, right? So they opened it up and they found something that they didn't expect to find and needed all new parts. That happened with the signal light in front of the ward office was supposed to take 2 weeks, 3 months. We also had the cement workers strike too. So like all of these, like the confluence of things that sort of delay things too. A lot of the projects, I won't say a lot of the projects, a good number of projects that were paid for in 2022, they weren't able to get started because of that material strike that happened. So everything got pushed back. So those things are still gonna happen. They've been paid for, so they will. But this also causes delays, right? So I think to your question, Lou, I can find out more information about what the larger scale plans are right now. They're replacing sewers. I know that people will have questions on lead service lines as well. Sure. Thanks for coming, you guys. Go ahead, Brian.
In other words, there are committee presentations, committee publications, healthcare. I consider for the infrastructure, having made both of the different neighborhoods that hold the 11th ward. And my main question is, at the end of the day, when you prioritize what needs to be done, is it mainly done through the office or is it based off of a committee of neighbors from the different areas?
So it's a two-part question that you just asked me. So let me answer the first, which is, have I considered? I absolutely have. And I've talked about my desire to create committees, not just for infrastructure, but for zoning, for business development, for education, for parks. I'm very committed to having community councils to help them. I'm not trying to do all this on my own. So second part of the question, before you jump into something else. Oh, okay, sorry. Do you want to step up a little bit? I'm sorry, the refrigerator back there doesn't help. Second part of the question, how has it been done thus far? There wasn't a committee. What we did now, because realize I just came in here 10 months ago. I came in the middle of nothing having been submitted to CDOT for menu work until I got here and I had to get my arms around it. My approach to this was, what are the oldest items on the list? That's how I prioritize it. If someone's been waiting since 2015 to get a sidewalk redone, that got bumped up to the top of the list. What didn't happen, when I took over the menu was, and after the remap was done, I didn't judge. I didn't say, okay, now this part of Canaryville is not here. We don't have to spend money there anymore. Absolutely not. That's not okay. So aging was the sort of baseline that we took to it. And then we had to take a look also at where other work was going to be happening. So if the water department or the gas company was going to be doing so, if they had scheduled work 6 months later, we weren't going to repave the street only to have the gas company come tear it up again. I think there's nothing more infuriating to residents after they see a nice smooth street that's been paved, that a year later that it's been torn up again. Right, so that's the basis, right? So that's what I can tell you about how it's been done. I'm telling you a lot more about how we want to have this be a much more participatory process. Anyone have questions? Carlos, have I missed anything? Nope. No. So if you have infrastructure issues in and around on your block, on your property, sidewalks, alleys, please don't hesitate to call and tell us. Come to the ward office. I tell everybody every time I meet somebody new, it's, if we don't know there's a problem, we can't do anything to fix it. So please help us help you. Nick,
I have a question about for infrastructure. There's also like green spaces. Does that fall on the word menu money? Even something as simple as having adding trees on our sidewalks. If it just gets really during the summer, when the cement's taking all that. There's not a lot of places where you can find the shade and it just makes it that much worse. I'm just curious about the process of that is something.
it's separate. You want to talk about that?
So that's separate. That's done through Department of Streets and Sanitation. They have the Bureau of Forestry.
Okay.
But if you want a tree in front of your address, it's basically a 311 request. It's not that difficult. You just either use the app, go online, or call 311. We prefer you call us. That way
We can chase it down
Yeah.
better.
Perfect. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. It's much more difficult to get a tree removed or a tree trimmed than it is to get it planted in the city.
Bureaucracy.
Yeah, gotta love it. If there's nothing else on budgeting, and more, there's gonna be a lot more to come. I promise you that we're gonna move into creating these committees and then really, testing the waters with this participatory piece of it. Nothing like this has ever been done before here, so we wanna sort of ease into this. So be patient with us, but please participate as well. And with that, I think,
the only thing is submissions to get done this year, preferably by June.
right,
You know, anything later than that,
we
unless,
can't promise it's.
yeah, unless it's something small like a speed bump or part of the sidewalk, that could get squeezed in. There are constraints. CDOT wants us to spend most of our money or a lot
The majority of
the
it
majority of
before
our
the
money.
First half of the year,
before June, yeah.
yes,
On that topic, real quick, speed bumps, is that through streets and sand or is that through the board menu?
that's through the menu, yep. You got it, all right, well, with that, we're gonna move on to CPS. We're gonna play musical chairs. You guys doing okay in Zoom land? Good,
Yes.
hi guys.
Hello.
So we have a couple of representatives from CPS. We have Corinne Pender from the Family, Community and Engagement Team. Oh, it's not advancing my slides. I'm so sorry. I've been advancing slides on my screen thinking that you guys could see it. I'm so sorry. I feel like I should have a mirror or something. I apologize. I can't see that screen and I can't maneuver if anybody else is trying to join, which is why I changed it back to this. So why don't you guys introduce yourself, please?
Good evening, everyone. Jamel Chambers, Director of City Council Affairs for Chicago Public Schools.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for sticking around for our presentation. I know we're over the time of the meeting, but thank you, Alderwoman Lee, for having us. And I just wanted to share, my name is Kareem. I'm the Director of Family and Community Engagement for Chicago Public Schools, but this area has a very close space to my heart. I grew up in the Archer Courts, right in this area. I had a paper route in Chinatown. I attended De La Salle High School. So speaking about a new high school proposal, the Near South High School Proposal Project is, we feel at CPS, this is a necessity because of the Near South area is one of the fastest growing regions in the city today. Currently, we have about 2,255 high school students within the Near South region and approximately 5,864 elementary school students. As CHA is looking to build 244 housing units right there in the 24th, 23rd and state area, that's looking to bring an additional 366 students in the immediate future within this area. So a need to build a new high school for the growing population as well as the current population is necessary. Something related to the proposed boundaries of the high school. Currently, the proposed boundaries would include portions of Wells High School, Phillips High School, as well as Tilden High School. Portions of their current boundaries will be included in the proposed boundaries for the new high school, with about 9 existing elementary schools, or what we're calling feeder elementary schools to the high school. So we're looking at Armour, NTA, Drake, Keeley, Ward J, Holden, Smith, Haynes, and South Loop. So those 9 high schools where they currently sit would be boundary areas to the new high school as well. Sure thing.
The ones in particular from the 11th ward.
I'll give you all, it's a nine, so Armor,
Armor,
ATA,
okay.
Drake, Healy, Ward J,
Mhm.
Holden, Smith, Haynes, and South Loop. So
Okay,
those are the current proposed elementary schools that would fit into the proposed
Right. So I
boundary.
just want to note for the 11th warders that are here and on the Zoom call, 5 of those 9 schools are within the 11th ward. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, no worries. So some of the important facts, because we know that there's some misinformation out there that's presented lots of times about these projects. So this will be considered a neighborhood high school. And the neighborhoods that we're looking to serve within the boundary is Armored Square, Chinatown, Bridgeport, South Loop, and portions of the Bronzeville neighborhood. We're looking to establish a diverse high school by design that CHA housing, so some of the CHA housing will fit into the boundary of the high school. And the school will be designed to serve approximately 1,200 students. The school is also co-designed with community member and parents as well. Some of the things that are not true about the school, it's not a selective enrollment school. It will not be a selective enrollment school. The school is not developed just for affluent residents within the South Loop area. And the school is not built at the expense of housing. So CPS actually purchased land at 23rd and 24th and Wabash that we swapped with CHA for the 24th and State Street land. So it would be additional housing built on Wabash for the location of the school. So it would be approximately the same amount of housing that was looking to be scheduled to be built. Some of the things that have existed throughout the process, September, our board voted to approve the 23rd and Wabash site for CPS to purchase that site to swap with CHA. We did in October, we started coordinating a design team concept formed of stakeholders, parents, community members. And then in November, we had our first design team meeting. We look to hold these meetings weekly on Tuesdays and Fridays. And then on January 19th, we had our first public meeting. So from February through May, we're looking to host webinars and give the community and the public updates on the process of the design team. This would include academic focus, building amenities. We will get feedback or receive feedback and recommendation on academic approaches. We'll also speak to the Public Building Commission. We'll speak to RFP process with the building of the building, and then capital plan updates as well. The earliest we're looking to open the building would be 2026, possibly January around 2026. The makeup of our design team is our 9 feeder school LSC chairs. So we hosted about 9 focus groups with parents from each one of the feeder schools. And we've been giving updates and meetings with our LSC chairs throughout the process back as early as July of last year. So we've worked with those chairs continuously throughout the process. They've been a part of our design team, as well as community organizations, the CB-CAC, with Grace Chan. We've had Pastor Harris of Bright Star. We've had the Near South Planning Board, Pastor Troy Vinny of Quinn, Chicago. We've had David Wu and his team, and we worked with Alderman Lee and Alderman Dow as well. And this also includes our CPS leadership and the Building Commission. That's all part of these weekly meetings that we have and coordinating the design that's going to be presented to the public. Some ways for you guys to get involved. We're going to be presenting a survey over the next couple of weeks. We're looking to survey approximately 1,500 to 25 residents, community members. From those surveys, we're looking to bring in 100 parents to be part of 10 focus groups. We're also looking to host focus groups with elementary school students that will feed into the high school, and then current high school students that are being affected by other high schools that will actually be able to give feedback to the process of the high school as well. From these focus groups, we will have empathy interviews. So we would select about 66 people to participate, students and adults to participate in empathy interviews to give us a more heartfelt personal feedback about the establishment of the high school. So that will be occurring starting this week through the end of March, and we'll be sharing our data and feedback at our webinar meetings throughout the process. Finally, as we do all the community outreach and the design team build out, the official vote, we're looking to send the vote to the board June of this year. So the board will vote officially on the establishment of the school. So that's currently our latest updates. And I know it's a high level overview of what we have, but
Yeah, Kareem, and thank you for that. I listened to the recording. I couldn't make that meeting that day for the update, but I know you all kept me very close in touch with the things that have been going on. And I've talked to some of the parents from the LSCs who have been participating in the design piece of it. I, for one, obviously am a big supporter of the high school. I think it's been needed for a very long time. We have incredible number of amazing elementary schools, both private and public in this area, and we haven't had good quality options for our kids to go to high school. I'm really thrilled that 5 of our schools are 5 of the 9 feeder schools. And you talked about the communities that are being served, that as the boundaries are drawn right now, it doesn't include all of Bridgeport. And the students from McClellan are not part of this set. So can you talk about at what point the feeder schools are going to be locked down, and maybe talk through what that process is in establishing what the boundaries are? I've gotten a lot of community feedback and concern about not all of Bridgeport being included in this, and that, you know, really crossing over 35th Street takes you into McClellan territory. And that is like, it's so close, but so far. You can talk a little bit about, just to share with everybody and people that are listening about what that process is, and if there's any opportunity to try to, you know, advocate to expand the boundaries potentially.
sure, I think, thank you for bringing that point up. And so, as I mentioned before, these are proposed boundaries currently. And so with our design team, having our LSC members, parents, community organizations, there are a lot of different groups that's advocating for different parts of their community or neighborhood to be within the boundary. Based upon the capacity of the school and currently the amount of students, high school students that's currently, elementary school students that are currently 5th or 6th grade that would be eligible to attend the high school at the time that it opens, where our data team and our offices are, and including all of those factors in right now. And so listening to everyone's request to ensure that their neighborhood or their street area is actually included in the boundary are things that we're considering. And the survey, if you are actually, we have the Alderman, we can get a copy of the sign-in sheet so we can share the survey out through email, and folks can give feedback and responses through the survey on possibly if their neighborhood or their street is not included as a request to have inclusion related.
If you give me that information, I'll publish it on our newsletter, and we'll put it on social media, and we'll make sure that all the various neighborhood organizations can share that.
Sure.
You know, we've got representatives from the Bridgeport Alliance and everything.
Definitely,
Yeah, that'd be great.
yes.
Thank you for being here. News for a minute, and I'm here in the area of that. I'm also yesterday teacher, and so I value community input. I was at the last town hall meeting. On this is criticism, but maybe going forward we might be able to use it. The last town hall meeting was virtual. As you can see here, there is an ability to have people interact, listen to each other, as in before the pandemic. And it's very helpful because people get a chance to listen to what people are saying, and they get a chance to provide their own input. When I asked the question at the town hall, there was the excuse that you needed to have a translator, in different languages. And while that may be true, I think you can have a lot of people volunteer to translate, as long as you give an opportunity for a town hall to be in person. I think it creates a different capacity of community input. And I would like the fact that you're doing this survey, you're doing so good. And it generally seems like you're trying to get feedback. I would just add that if you could plan another town hall in which people could actually show up in a large space that is comfortable with translators so that people are able to hear, because when I was online, I couldn't hear what anybody else is necessarily commenting. They were basically just kind of giving us information from the top down. Where I come from in the teaching world, that's called teaching from top down, just kind of feeding it. There's no interaction. And so that's the only thing that I would like to, as far as community input, should be. The other thing is, I was worried that, our state representative, threatened to pull the $50 million that the state has already allocated for this project. In your opinion, if that indeed happens, and there isn't a change to the current location, how do you envision us filling that gap or that 50 million? You know, just one line, I'll tell you that I agree that we should have the site. I'm in favor. I have many of my high school students that take 3 buses to get to the high school, right? Because this is Chicago school from this area. And I see the injustice in not having a neighborhood. I think we have everything to make it happen. And I want to see it happen. I want to see it under the right conditions. Last thing, coach. And I'm afraid that that space isn't big enough to have athletic fields like some of the other newly built high schools that have been built in the area. You know, I travel and look at all high schools. I like the proposed site to make sure that it has every ability and every benefit for some of the others. So I appreciate being here and thank you.
To the comment about the state rep, she did attend our September board meeting and did say that she was intending on removing the funding that was allocated for the proposed school. One of her comments was the reason being was the lack of community engagement. But since then, we have ramped up our community engagement. Kareem said in his presentation, talked about the community organizations, the community CACs that we've been engaging with. We've also been in continuous conversation with Alderwoman Lee, Alderwoman Dow, and State Rep Ma. She's been talking to the CEO. So we are confident that through our continuous community engagement, the money will be there. In the event that it's not, which again, we are confident that it will be, we're going to continue to work with the state to ensure the money that was allocated is used for the proposed school.
If I'm not mistaken, there's a new state rep that will be representing part of this. Thank you. Facility, but that's what you said will be part of it.
Yeah, so that's part of the design team, and thank you for bringing up the point about the athletic field, because in our design team meetings, that has been a discussion and concern of others. Currently, NTA Elementary School shares the field that's there with Jones Commercial, and so that has been an issue raised about athletic amenities inside of the building as well as externally. What space is available to build outside athletic fields and support. So these are things that are being discussed. There's issues that are raised, but appreciate you sharing that concern out as well.
Any other questions about the near South High School? I, for one, am very excited. Nick, go ahead.
I do have a question. So I do hear, of course, the need in the community. Like Mr. Mayor was saying, students taking multiple buses. I guess I'm also looking at it, it's $150, there's $150 million. And there's a lot of schools that are in disrepair, we're talking, I mean, even rats, you know, lead pipes, all this stuff. What I'm trying to understand is rather than have one, you know, use this money for one world-class school, why wouldn't it be better served helping other schools revamp and repair a lot of existing buildings that have been there for a while?
Great question, and this has been a discussion amongst many residents, community organizations. So what we're looking at it not as an or, but as an and. And so building a new high school to address the needs that exist with the growing population and looking at how we reimagine investment in our current high schools as well. So our CEO Martinez has implemented a new process of reimagining how community-wide, working with community organizations, community businesses, parents, how we look to reinvest and what reinvestments are needed in the current elementary and high schools within our neighborhood. So that's also a portion of what we're researching and diving into with current administration and community leaders.
And just to add from the capital aspect, there has been investment into the schools that are nearby. And we're gonna continue to invest in those schools once this school is built.
So I'm mindful of the time with our 8 o'clock with our stuff, so we're still, we're headed in. 5 minutes, in the last 5 minutes, and I want to just leave you with just a couple of like teasers that I'll give you a quick Remova update, and I'll put a Remova update in the next week or two here in the newsletter. But, oh, I'm sorry, Anna, you have a question. I wasn't looking at the screen. Sorry about that.
Maybe I didn't hear it, but about the high school, are other sites still being considered or just the CHA land? And is that a done deal? Have CHA and CPS exchanged money?
So other sites are not currently being considered. We are looking to do a land swap with CHA based upon the purchase of the land that CPS is purchasing on 23rd and Wabash.
Did you get all that, Anna? Just want to make sure there's a microphone that I can be sure you heard. Okay. Great. So Remova Theater. Knock on every piece of wood in the room. Hopefully we'll be open before the end of the summer this year. So, fingers crossed. And now, I've just said it on a Zoom. Tyler's gonna kill me now. They're working with all speed to try to get that open. Obviously, the developers want to get that open during the warm season too. To have that get off the ground. I think everybody's gonna be really excited about that. I think with that, we are looking to work with Department of Planning and Development. We just had a call with them earlier today. When we're going to be having them evaluate the zoning along the Halsted Street corridor, so that we may look at, some map amendments to make it more attractive for businesses. A lot of the parcels were down zoned probably to single family, which, is not so super welcoming for storefront. So more things to come. Another thing that I can give you just an update about too, the Stockyards Bank Building on the 35th and Halsted tip. I've asked for the 35th and Halsted tip is for renewal. We've asked for the boundaries to be extended so that it can include the Stockyards Bank Building. We're going to be doing an RFP for the Stockyards Bank Building and the property that's adjacent immediately to the south, because that is a city-owned lot as well. And I'm looking to do community engagement around what we would like to see. Well, I guess what we would like to see. I'm sorry. Oh, a request for proposal. Thank you. Thank you for public service. A request for proposal for developers who want to develop the property at the Stockyards Bank Building. We're thinking about pairing it as a combined parcel with the land across the street, so that we can pull those two things together. We've had some interest from people over the years. But I think this is a really great opportunity for us to really have a meaningful discussion about what we would like to, what does the 11th ward of the future look like, and how do we get there? How do we map that out, and how do we begin to do that? Laying some of the groundwork with development and zoning changes on the commercial corridors, and then looking at places that are underdeveloped right now. Excuse me, and the historic Stockyards Bank Building is definitely something that we haven't been able to do anything with yet. So we're hoping that very soon we'll get some good innovative ideas that we can pull into bringing that end of the board up with us as well. Are there any other questions before we sign off here? Nothing in the room, nothing in the Zoom. Oh, Kelvin.
Yes, I wanted to know about Chicago Public Schools real quickly. If people don't have students who attend the school, are their opinions invited, or are we just discarded?
Yep. Nobody's discarded. That's why we have local school council community members. You don't have to have a student at the school. So no, I welcome all opinions are welcome.
Okay.
I answered for you. I'm assuming that. So I'll get the information for the survey, and I'll make sure we publish that in this week's newsletter, and that we push that out on our social media channels as well. Definitely want to encourage participation, so that we can get everybody's opinions in. And if we need to have another community meeting, we're going to do that. And one last thing, just on the subject of cannabis, because several of you were at that meeting as well. There was a community meeting about a possible dispensary at 35th and Ashland. That was held by the applicant for the dispensary permit, that's a special use permit that has to be obtained through the zoning board of appeals. So just for those of you who don't know, understand are familiar with the process, that is not something that they come to the alderman for. It is, the property that they are looking at is zoned commercial, the C1 property, and an eligible use is for a bar or a dispensary, but the dispensary requires a special use permit, which they have to apply to the zoning board of appeals. It's a 5-person board. They rule on on different zoning matters. The community is going to have an opportunity to provide input on that. I was there participating like everybody else was listening. I have not formed an opinion about it one way or another. I'm doing all of my due diligence. I'm going to be looking for community feedback. I know folks that attended that meeting voiced a lot of their concerns about it, and I'd like to hear from more of the community about cannabis in general. Right. So, Corey, you were asking earlier about the smoke shops. I think cannabis is legal in the city. It was only a matter of time before somebody was going to come and try to open one up in the 11th ward. Steve, this got to be last question. We're right at 8 o'clock.
Is it a concern that Hennis, the facility is literally kitty corner away from the drug rehabilitation center? Because in 2019, 27 Fort Lauderdale shut it down because it was too close to the drug rehabilitation center. So this is not a spot.
What was shut down?
He didn't allow us to proceed.
There was an application for a dispensary
Yes.
in the same location?
Within close proximity.
Okay, sorry, I just misunderstood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the concern is, if you have addicts and they're that close to it, it may trigger them. And
Understood.
that was one of the reasons, okay, so this is, if it's too close, I mean, if it's too close to a facility.
So again, the zoning board of appeals is the ultimate authority on this, that the 5-person board will vote on it. And as I mentioned the other day when we were at this meeting, there are certain standards that have to be proven for the applicant to be able to prove their case and we're allowed for. I can't speak for that alderman, but the process for this,
Well, this is the same board, he was the same board. And he just clearly, I mean, said, no, not here, too close to the rehabilitation center.
Steve, I'll tell you, I will give you an example that the zoning board of appeals is a completely independent organization. Alderman Pat Thompson and the zoning administrator opposed the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through. The ZBA still passed it. So there's not a guarantee, even if I do oppose it. I'm not saying I do or I don't at this point. I'm not going to give that to anybody right now, because I'm still doing my listening and my due diligence. I'm telling you that aldermen can oppose things to the ZBA and the ZBA does what the ZBA does.
Doesn't the, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't.
Steve, we can talk about this like separately. I don't, people have been very patient. This has been a long meeting. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate everybody's participation. I want to just let you know too, there are candidates in the room. If you want to say, meet anybody, Troy is here, Steve is here. They're both running for alderman as well. We have the district council candidates as well. Aaron Vogel and Abe Matthews are also here. The police district councils are really important council that we're going to be electing in this next election. So if you haven't met any of them, or if they haven't knocked on your door, you should do some research. And this is for everybody that's on the Zoom as well. Thank you all for coming, and please, if you need anything, you know how to reach us. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.